Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, we're rolling. It is Wednesday night this week. Gridiron Grinder time nonetheless. I am Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. This is episode 156 of Gridiron Grinder. And tonight we're going to kick things off with Name That Stadium like we always do. Then we're going to cover briefly and sort of like skimmily the news of the past week, which is like the past 5 days, really. After that, we're going to do our NFL Top 100 list review. James, I know you've got a lot of things you want to say about that. And then last but not least, we'll close it off with our question of the week. And so, yeah, man, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Oh, man, I've had better days, dude. I found out that we lost a subscriber down from
Oh,
71 to 70. So
what?
sad
How,
times.
how the fuck? It's one of those bots.
Yeah, it was probably some dude, but I can't, it doesn't tell me who it was. So it's okay. We had a nice little run there. Now we're going the other way, and hopefully we lock on and maybe start going up again next week. So
Yeah, hopefully. But we gotta get those views too. 70 subscribers. Shit, we should at least have 70 views.
you're right. It is funny how that works, right? Because what are we at? Like, I don't know, not even like 35 or 40 views, but somehow we have 70 subscribers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, bots. I blame it on China, maybe the Russians. I don't know. So
Yeah, probably the Russians, not China.
probably the Russians. Yeah, Snowden over there, he's botting it up for Putin. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, why don't you take that ball and run with it? Do a little name that stadium for us, man.
All right. As you can see, this is the part of the show, but where I travel, to a stadium that generally hosts an NFL game. I, generally tie it into something most of the time, and then, you guess first person to guess, get it right. You get that extra special shout out, bookmark it. You can watch it over and over again. Last week I was in the good old D. I was at Ford Field. We were going over the AFC NFC North, and every chance I get, I should just go to Ford Field. So
Yeah, well, you admitted you were drinking some Kool-Aid, and so
yeah,
it all made sense.
exactly.
Well, yeah, hey, we haven't had any takers in a while, but hopefully we do. We'll give you that extra special shout out on YouTube. So hit us up, whether you're right, wrong, or whatever. We'll show you some love. So, all right, well, hey, let's move it on over. We'll do our recap of the past week, James. And so, yeah, with it being sort of a short week since the last show, and then cut down day yesterday, that was a big thing. There have actually been like a huge flurry of events in the NFL and or transactions rather. And so
Hmm.
kind of been hard to get a grip on it. I think maybe we'll have a better idea timing to sort of like summarize it for next week's show. But for tonight, I'll just hit a couple things and then you can add on whatever you want. So yeah, with cut down day, basically, for people who don't know this, the teams had to drop down to 53 people on the roster. And so a lot of guys, mostly undrafted rookies or younger players or even veterans that are starting to decline, they were kind of like on the fringe and got cut. Teams sort of made like a little scamper of trades before the deadline. Some of that we saw last week with a few trades, like Arizona was in on a lot of the action. More of it happened this week going into Tuesday, and then now you got post cut down day where teams are going back out there and they're signing some of these guys that were cut from other teams, and so we're still kind of in that cycle of the rosters actually shaking out and getting solidified for week one. Um, and all this while it was going on, we had our final week of preseason. Um, really the only couple things I picked up on for that, which the third week of preseason's tough because you get a lot of the guys that are on the fringe playing in that last game, and so many of those guys don't end up making a team, and it's kind of hard to like put a lot of weight into that game, but I would say that rookie quarterback for Chicago, Badgett, I believe is his name. he ended up looking really good, and so good that they cut PJ Walker, and it looks like they're rolling with him as their two. I did hear today that they're probably going to sign a veteran to be like their reserve third quarterback.
Hmm.
Uh, but that'd be pretty wild going with this guy Badgett as their backup. And I thought he looked poised. He did have a pick at one point in the game, but it was right after their tight end dropped a touchdown. And so, it's kind of like, hey, if they would have caught the ball, it never would have happened. But that's just the way the game works. And then I saw Aaron Rodgers took a couple drives with the Jets. People got all fired up about that. He connected with, I believe, Garrett Wilson on a touchdown in the
Hmm.
end zone. Um, and then I heard the I heard a couple things. The Denver offense got moving with Stidham, which maybe like at some point puts pressure on Russell Wilson if he's not performing. I know we talked a little bit about that last week. Your reading the tea leaves is just that they don't want Russell Wilson getting hurt, and so they're going to see what they got in their backup. Um, but then in Buffalo, it sounds like, man, all preseason they've been having an issue on offense getting things
Hmm.
going, and a lot of guys have been reporting on that, starting to point it out that, hey, what the heck's going on in Buffalo? And so I wouldn't worry too much about it. Buffalo, they've been one of the top offenses these last couple of years, and they really didn't have that significant of change on that offense, especially with that nucleus. They still got Josh Allen, they still got Stephon Diggs. Um, I would just bet that if it's anything, it's that it's preseason and they're trying just some random crap and it's not working. They
Hmm.
don't want to show their hand totally before the regular season starts. And so those were kind of my, preseason week 3 takeaways. In other news, I saw that Josh Jacobs restructured his 1 year deal with the Raiders. And so instead of the franchise tag, he's getting a 1 year, I believe it was $12 million deal. And so,
Yeah, that's what I remember.
okay, yeah. And so kind of similar to the Saquon Barkley thing, a little bit funny how there's sort of like that workaround in the CBA or whatever. But it looks like he's saying he's putting it to bed and he's looking forward for the year. And then Joe Burrow returning to practice from that bum ankle. And so, that's pretty much all I got for tonight, James. I know that that's like the lightest I've been, probably since the Super Bowl, but, I figured you could fill in a couple pieces if you want, or we can do a more in-depth review next week after the dust settles from all this.
So, like, a couple things I saw this week, which was interesting, was like the Packers were trying to trade for Jonathan Taylor. Um,
I did hear something about that today. Yeah, what do you know about that? Did they get
I,
any specifics, or just in general they tried to make a move for him?
I heard it and I haven't had a chance to read the article,
Okay.
but apparently Miami, who was rumored to be in on Jonathan Taylor deal, Miami didn't even make an
Yeah,
offer.
I heard that. I heard Miami never even made an offer. Yeah.
Yeah, because apparently the Colts said that they wanted it was they wanted like some ridiculous um where is it? I just saw it. Where the fuck did it go? Here it is. So they wanted Jalen Waddle for
Oh
Jonathan
yeah. Like
Taylor.
they're gonna give that up when their offense was humming last year.
I'm sorry, Jalen Waddle and more for John. It's like Jesus Christ. Why don't you ask for like I don't know, give us your team name
Yeah.
and
Let's
don't.
give you uh, an up and coming wide receiver that could potentially play for the next 15 years for a running back that may have already fallen off the cliff, and the average shelf life's only like 4 years anyhow. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So I'm looking for it. Miami, it's blah blah blah. They were in talks and had legitimate interests. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything specific about
Okay.
anything that was talked about there.
Oh man, so this is just random, but I was just thinking about fantasy football, and I heard something on TV today, and I was cleaning my kitchen, and so I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention. But one of the guys was projecting Anthony Richardson to be the top fantasy quarterback, and
Jesus Christ.
how do you make that bold of a prediction on a rookie, man? And he said that he's expecting him to have over 1,000 rushing yards as a rookie, and so it's like just I don't know. Some of the it's like shock value is all it is. It's like, come on, man, the dude hasn't taken a real snap yet, and you're gonna put him at the top? Like, ugh.
Yeah, but that's like kind of in line with the that Madden simulation I told you about last week, where it was like predicting he had like 4,000 yards passing and almost 2,000 yards rushing.
I mean, hey, I guess anything can happen, right? But holy cow, that would be insane if he came out and he was the top fantasy quarterback in his rookie year, dude. It'd be
Yeah,
nuts. It'd be nuts.
yeah, no
Uh,
shit.
but
Other
those
than
mobile
that,
quarterbacks, they do rack up points because of the running and whatever. I get it, but still, it seems like a big stretch to me.
yeah, and the only other real thing I saw this week was Matt Corral from
Oh yeah,
Carolina.
Carolina.
He was cut, and that was like the 13th of I don't know how many draft picks Matt Rule was there for. He was only there for like 2 years, 3 years, two drafts, maybe three, maybe two drafts, 2021, no, probably three, 22, and but they've cut 13 of his former picks since he's left, and
Yeah,
not all those picks made the team. So it's like, how many of those picks really are still there? There's probably like two.
yeah, they gutted that roster, man. And I mean, hey, it wasn't working. They're starting fresh. That's just how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. But Aiden O'Connell did make the active roster, the 53-man roster. I'm telling you, it's not going to be long. He's going to be starting there because Hoyer's not going to be the starter and Garoppolo's not going to last. So,
Yeah, that's your sleeper quarterback, man, to come out of nowhere this year. I
hmm
mean, hey, he looked good from what I saw, and then everything I heard sounded pretty legit. And so it's crazier things have happened, right?
yeah, crazier shits happen, but that's just kind of a little bit out there for me
Yeah.
saying that. Like it's not out there for me, but it's a little wild to me that could happen, especially being a fourth rounder and coming in, and as much as yeah, maybe he was against lesser competition in preseason, but still as like he looked like any vet out there. Didn't look like a
Yeah.
rookie.
No, I hear you on that, man. Yeah, and I mean, we saw Dorian Thompson Robinson had a phenomenal preseason for a rookie. Um, and then I mean, you just look at what happened last year with Brock Purdy, man, Mr. Irrelevant. I mean, it's like
Hmm.
these guys, they can come out of nowhere sometimes, and it's super cool when it happens, man. That's like the biggest underdog story you can get.
That's true.
All right, so that's all you got for the news.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Okay. Well, we'll jump into the main event here tonight, James. We'll do our review of the NFL top 100 list. And I know that you felt very passionately about what was going on here and wanted to make some comments. I know a couple weeks ago you were talking about Jamar Chase in particular, being disrespected on the list. And, so I figure I'm going to kind of sit back and play second fiddle here, let you sort of lead the way. And, we've got our list. We've shared it with each other. We've looked at the top 100. We pulled the top 100 from lineups as a point of reference. We've sorted it by position as well. And we can go any different direction, man. I'm going to let you just kind of lead the show here.
All right, so you're letting me lead the show. I'm the one that's still on the fly fixing my notes because I lost my goddamn spreadsheet. So
All right. Well, we'll go back and forth, but I know that you had a lot of opinions about it, so that's all I'm
yeah,
trying
no,
to say.
I have the opinions. Like a couple things I noticed off that because we did it, or we it's kind of broken out by position. Is like the position breakdown, like how many players at what position were on the top 100. It makes logical sense. It makes sense that you're not going to have more than like 2 or 3 guards in the top 100, or
Hmm.
like one, maybe 2 centers in the top 100. I think like Travis or Jason Kelsey at 37 on the list is a little fucking high, but
And that's the tough part because, like, you know, every year, and I even made a note on our spreadsheet, is that this is, it's voted by the players, and it's basically them saying these are the top 100 players right now based off of the most recent NFL season. And it's when you see the list, it's very obvious that there's some sort of legacy, uh, component in the players' minds, and that some guys get voted in there based off of their sort of like their name brand and their legacy. And I'll just give you one example, James, and just bear with me while I'm pulling my notes up here on this one guy. But so DeAndre Hopkins, he made the top 100 again. And oh my gosh, where's my note on him? So he made the top 100, and I'm trying to find him. Let's see, he was at number 90, and so he barely made the top 100. But here's my issue: the dude only played 9 games last year,
mhm.
and so it's it seems like to be in the top 100, you got to play like a significant amount of the season because you're taking it off of the most recent season. And when he was only available for basically half the season, I don't know, to me it's like that should be kind of like a disqualifier. But then if you dig deeper on him, so in the 9 games he played, he averaged 79 yards a game and
Mhm.
he only had 3 touchdowns. I mean, this is like, by his standards, a very low year. And so I don't know. I think that you could have found a lot of wide receivers that should have made the list if you're looking just purely at this last year above DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah, so let me pull up the original list, because I have my spreadsheet where I was rating, because the wide receiver is the perfect fucking example here.
Yeah.
Um, so on the original list, like the rankings of the wide receivers, let me get this. Let me get to it.
Yeah,
You
and
had
just
okay.
talking about Hopkins while you're pulling that up, man. I'm just looking at this one guy, Tyler Lockett, didn't even make the list. And the dude had 9 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards for Seattle last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, and he's a guy who perennially is like underrated, But it's like if you're looking just purely at this last year, oh man, I have a hard time putting Hopkins above so many guys, man.
Yeah. So with with the list, original wide receivers on the list. At number 2, you had Jefferson, 7 Tyreek Hill, 13 Devontae Adams, 16 Stephon Diggs, 22 AJ Brown, 34 CD Lamb, 39 Jamar Chase, 44 Jalen Waddle. Like, and then Cooper Kupp at 47, Mike Evans at 53, Debo Samuel at 61, St. Brown 67, Garrett Wilson 74, Hopkins at 90, Terry McLaurin at 94, and fucking Devonta Smith at 100. I have a lot of
Yeah,
issues with that.
yeah.
Like,
I liked him a lot, but yeah, I mean, I'm looking at him. He averaged 70 yards a game and had 7 touchdowns. And
hmm
so he's almost like what DeAndre Hopkins would have been if he played the whole year.
yeah, and like, so 1, 2, 3, 1 through 4, I have no issue.
Hmm.
I have an issue. I think Jamar Chase is not what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They had Jamar Chase at 7, so I think Jamar Chase should be at 5. I think Jamar Chase should be well higher than 39. Like, I mean, dude's had a phenomenal career. Yeah, he has Joe Burrow passing to him, but AJ Brown has Jalen Hurts passing to him. CeeDee Lamb has Dak Prescott. Those people are better are the better side of quarterbacks. So why? But I don't understand why they're lower. Jamar Chase had a better year last year than both those players. And then you get to after that, you get to Cooper Kupp at 47, who didn't play
Yeah,
last year.
that's another one. Yeah, he played 9 games, dude. And I get it. His 9 games, he averaged 90 yards a game, so it's significantly better than Hopkins. But it's like the same thing. Like it's almost like they got to have more parameters for this list.
Yeah, and with their where they have Cooper Kupp, I really moved Cooper Kupp down one in the order, and I took somebody off the list and
Sure.
put them on the list. I think that's where what's that? One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, ninth. I think ninth is a good spot for DK Metcalf to set. I think his lineups rating is a little bit low at
Yeah.
89. I think he's better than Godwin. I think he's better than Cooper.
Yeah.
I mean, they have CeeDee Lamb at 89 on lineups, as you know, that's like right comparable with Metcalf, and CeeDee Lamb's listed as the what's that seventh? Yeah, sixth wide receiver on the original list. And then Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, like I can't really argue with those. Devonta Smith is who I would have next. Like Devonta Smith is better than Deebo Samuel. Devonta Smith is better than AJ Brown. I'm sorry, not AJ Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's better than Garrett Wilson. He's definitely better than DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's comparable to Terry McLaurin, but just because I think he's better than Terry McLaurin, but they play different style games. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I'm in line again, kind of move people down a little bit. Deebo Samuel, St. Brown, Garrett Wilson. Those guys are right about there, right about there in wide receiver, Terry McLaurin. And then I have Godwin. And yeah, Godwin is ranked higher than Metcalf on lineups, but I think part of the issue with Godwin is, and it's a little bit of the issue with Mike Evans too, why he's rated lower, is because those two players, they're always injured and they take away from each other.
Yeah, and I mean, even looking at the rookies, you got Garrett Wilson on the list as a rookie, and or coming off his rookie year,
Yeah,
rather.
coming off his rookie year.
And so like he's at 74, and there were 3 wide receivers after him on the list. I just don't. I guess I don't understand how you include him on the list, but not Chris Olave with the Saints. I mean, Olave had almost identical stats. In fact, if you look at it, Wilson averaged 64.9 yards a game. Olave actually did better at 69.5 yards a game. They both
Right.
had 4 touchdowns. I mean, Devonta Smith played 2 more games. I just, it just to me, it's almost like you need to be looking more at the stats if you're only going to look at 1 year of a sample size.
So, but the thing with Garrett Wilson, and I will make the argument that it might be actually a little bit low for Garrett Wilson being at 74, simply because of the fact that he had Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, and Mike White throwing him the ball.
No, that is a piss poor group of quarterbacks.
Where
You know,
Olave, yeah,
the
Olave
the
had
Saints were better, but not that much better at quarterback.
right, but Olave had
Winston and
Winston
you know,
and Andy Dalton, but right there, Winston and Andy Dalton is a better
all right,
combination of
all right,
quarterbacks than those three,
I
and by
got you,
far, like
I got you.
fucking Zach Wilson. The only reason why he's still on the Jets is because he's still on his rookie deal.
Yeah,
Like
I got you.
his money's guaranteed. Otherwise, they would have gotten rid of him. He's a
Yeah,
complete bust. Not as much of a bust as what's his face? Oh shit! Why am I losing his name? San Francisco. Trey Lance. Trey Lance is like a huge fucking bust. But Zach Wilson's stats through like it was like in the middle of last year. Zach Wilson's stats, I kid you not, were worse than fucking Jamarcus Russell's.
Oh, oh,
Were worse
oh,
in the
oh. Jamarcus
exact amount of
Russell.
games
Oh
played.
no. Oh.
Exact amount of games played. He had equal yards, equal touchdowns, equal amount of wins,
Yeah.
one or two less interceptions. Like he had almost identical stats to Jamarcus Russell, and we all know what Jamarcus Russell was as a quarterback. He was not that fucking good.
Yeah.
And Zach Wilson is that draft class. What was it, 2020 draft class, 2021? He's that draft 2021, I think it was, whatever year it was.
Yeah, I think it was before that, but yeah, I got you.
He's like that version. I'm gonna look it up, but
Sure.
Zach Wilson is the Jamarcus Russell of that draft.
I mean, Jamarcus Russell went number one. Zach Wilson was, I don't know.
Zach Wilson went like number 3.
Yeah. But, when you're number one,
I
it's
was right. He
different.
went number 2. He went number 2 in the 2021 draft.
So he's the Ryan Leaf.
So the player that went before him, this is why he's the Jamarcus Russell. The player that went before him was Trevor Lawrence.
Okay.
So Zach Wilson and Trey Lance, it's like Trey Lance is like Ryan Leaf and Zach Wilson is Jamarcus Russell.
Okay. All right.
The difference is Trey Lance has talent. It just wasn't the right situation with him in San Francisco. If he can catch on to a team that plays a system that's good for him and can develop him, he will be a good quarterback in the league. Zach Wilson has no fucking hope.
Yeah, we did talk about that with Trey Lance when they drafted him, that it just seemed like a stretch for the fit in that
Mm-hmm.
and that it was going to be something where Shanahan either had to change his system for Lance, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's what he saw in him and wanted to do, or Lance was going to have to adjust to his system, and that clearly didn't work. So
Yeah, and honestly, of the players, because they had their pick of the rest of the quarterbacks in that draft, and we talked about it going in that I thought that Mac Jones was the perfect quarterback to go to San Francisco.
yeah, and based off the rookie year, it looked like he would have fit in there really
Uh-huh.
well.
He would have fit in there really well. And if last year the problem with Mac Jones was the fact that
Yeah,
frickin'
Patricia and fucking whoever
Patricia
were,
and
yeah, Joe Judge.
were his offensive coordinators. But even you don't go with Mac Jones. They could have picked Justin Fields.
Hmm.
Justin Fields is a similar quarterback to Trey Lance, had more experience, and now Justin Fields is coming into his own, where Trey
Yeah.
Lance is fucking ridiculously well. He has like another 3 years to develop.
Yeah, he's
at
still at
least.
square one. Yep.
Yeah, because Trey Lance played like no college ball. He played seriously, he only played 10 total games of college football.
Well,
Okay. He
Yeah.
played in 19 games in 3 years, but from 20, he played one game in 2020 because that's all his team played, and he didn't look good in that game. It was against some crap team like Central Arkansas State Junior College, and he went 15 for 30 for 149 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. So I think it was like Central Arkansas, seriously.
Okay.
Let me take a look.
Yeah, and I mean, you're getting pretty heated about the quarterbacks, man. You want to go there next?
All right, quarterbacks. I didn't have that much of an issue with the quarterbacks. There was a little tweaking here and there with them. So at quarterback, the original. Let me get the original list over here. So the original.
There's a
list,
lot of them on there, man. 14
Yeah.
quarterbacks.
So I'm just going to go in order and not where they're ranked.
Sure.
So you had Mahomes, Hurts, Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Cousins, Rodgers, Prescott, which is a fucking joke there, Jared Goff, Lamar Jackson, which is a fucking joke that he's that low, Geno Smith, Tua Tagovailoa, Justin Fields, and Trevor Lawrence. So, number one,
Yeah, I
Patrick
mean,
Mahomes.
fucking Dak averaged 238 yards a game, missed 5 games. It's all right, but yeah, keep going. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so number one, Patrick Mahomes, no argument. Jalen Hurts at number two. I have a little bit of an issue with there because a lot of Jalen Hurts' success was the push my quarterback into the end zone success type of success.
13 rushing yards. I mean, 13 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah. So I took Burrow and Allen and put them above Hurts and put Hurts at number four at quarterback.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Herbert
balk at that.
Herbert, no problem at number five.
Hmm.
Kirk Cousins, based on last year, I love Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. Based on last year, I think that's too high for Kirk Cousins. In fact,
Sure.
I put Lamar Jackson after Justin Herbert because Lamar Jackson has the talent, and when he's on the field, he's a fucking phenomenal quarterback. It's just and he's
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, but here's my problem with Lamar Jackson. Once again, if we're looking at last year, the dude missed 5 games. He only averaged 186 yards passing, and he had 63 yards a game rushing. And so, I mean, that's like, he's putting up 240, 250 yards a game. Cousins was at 267, and then Cousins played the whole season, had 31 touchdowns. I think I will say this, you have been a proponent of Kirk Cousins, and so when you drop him on a list, I think that's, you have a good view of Cousins. You're not trying to inflate him. I'm just trying to defend him to Lamar Jackson because
yeah,
it was a
and
down year for Lamar.
and I understand that, but when I look at the quarterbacks that were the other quarterbacks that could have been here,
Yeah,
I think Lamar Jackson is
he's more of a game changer
more
than
of a game
Cousins.
changer than Cousins. But also he's more of a threat to defenses
Yeah,
because defenses don't know what he's going to do. He can run the ball and he can throw the ball. He hasn't had talent at wide receiver. This year he has
yeah.
talent at wide receiver. And this year's going to be a make or break it year. This year, if he does shit, I have no problem dropping him. But I just think with what I see in that offense and where I see if he can stay healthy, he has a legit chance at being a top four, top five quarterback at that. So I can't have him. What was he at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can't have him at number 10.
All right, so talk to me about Rodgers.
Oh, I'll get to Rodgers.
Okay. All right, because I'm
After
looking at him compared to some of these other guys statistically.
after after Lamar Jackson, I have Jared Goff. And yeah, you can make the argument that Jared Goff is inconsistent, but I think I'm hoping if we have 90 to 95% of what he was last year, I think this is where he fits into the list. And it's only like a couple spot bump for him.
Sure.
What
Yeah.
two spot bump from what the players rank. But if he's 95% of what he was last year, I actually probably would comparatively if he's 95% of what he was last year and Lamar Jackson is 95 to 100% of what I think he could be, I could make the argument that Jared Goff should be ranked above Lamar Jackson.
Okay. Yeah, and just for stat purposes, Goff had 261 yards a game, which was good for 4,500 yards on the season, and he had 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. That's a pretty solid year when you compare him to guys on this list,
Right.
especially
And
Aaron Rodgers.
yes, and on this list, I agonized over Goff here or having Kirk Cousins here. I
Okay.
settled in Goff here. I put Kirk Cousins next. And then this is where I think the list got way wrong. Trevor Lawrence is not the 96th best player in the league.
Okay.
He is not the 96th best player in the league. I can't quite put him in the top top 5 for quarterbacks. I think he could get there with a couple more years of experience, but I think I think Goff, Cousins, Lawrence are right in that ranking. And you could argue that anyway. You could put Lawrence, Cousins, Goff,
Sure.
Cousins, Lawrence,
Yeah.
Goff, Cousins, Goff, Lawrence, like however you want to do it. I think these 3 right here was that 7 through 9. I think that's where it falls out.
Okay.
Then I put Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
And the only reason I put Aaron Rodgers here, I don't move Justin Fields up. I think Aaron Rodgers is better than Prescott. I don't move some of these players up. It's because Aaron Rodgers, yeah, you can make the argument he didn't have any talent there in Green Bay to throw to, but he didn't have talent the year before, and he won the MVP. So that concerns me. Is the game gone for Rodgers, or was it his I just don't give a fuck about things here in Green Bay? And I think Rodgers, I think this is where Rodgers fits because the only person in this list going down that I could argue could be ahead of Aaron Rodgers, but he has to have one more year. He has had half of season of being good, and that's Justin Fields. So, but I left Justin Fields down where he was, but I could make the argument to put Justin Fields here.
Okay.
Then after that, I have Dak Prescott. I've never been a Dak Prescott fan. I don't think he's a good quarterback. There's just something about him that I don't like. He's inconsistent, and he plays for the Cowboys, which I can't stand the Cowboy quarterbacks. I mean, they just annoy the fuck out of me. And I think he capped out at what he could do two years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. No, 2 years ago was
2021.
Not 2021, 2020. He capped out. 2021 was when he broke his ankle.
No, that had to be 2020 because 2020. Oh no, you're thinking 2019. He had 5,100 yards and 33 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's the year I'm thinking. I think that's
Yeah.
where he capped out, and he's declined
Yeah.
since then. And then when he came back for his broken ankle, he hasn't been that quarterback that he was in 2019. Geno Smith, I can't come up with a good argument to move Geno Smith from here. I don't know if Geno Smith is a good quarterback, but what he showed last year was a good quarterback.
Yeah, 4,600 yards and 31 touchdowns, man. That's legit.
And then the next one I have here is Justin Fields. I have Justin Fields, then Tua. I know the list had Tua, then Justin Fields, but the thing of it is Tua. I have concerns about Tua's health overall.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking him for his concussions, but I have to see him be able to withstand the hits and not get a concussion, not get injured, and actually play. If Tua cannot get injured, I can make the argument to put Tua above Cousins. If Tua takes the steps where I thought he was coming into the league and takes those steps forward, I can make the argument that he could be right after Herbert, or even close, maybe even above Herbert.
Yeah, I mean, he was electric until he got that first concussion last year.
Exactly. And Tua is a dynamic quarterback. He's a dual threat. Defenses don't really know what to do with him. He used to not take the big hit. When he was in college, his first year, before he hurt his hip, he never took the big hit. And then after he hurt his hip in college and sat out, and he's just taken big hit after big hit after big hit. So I don't know what that hip injury did to him, but which concerns me. But I think Tua, if he can get back to where he was, can be a top 6 quarterback in the league.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, he was throwing for 272 yards a game when he played last year. And so he was in 13 games. I mean, that's that's higher than everyone except for Mahomes, Burrow, and Herbert on a per game basis. Now, some of the other guys have rushing yards. I'm only looking at the passing yards. But even then, and Tua actually didn't run the ball much last year, but you'd think he could if they wanted him to.
Yeah, he definitely could if if they wanted him to. I 100% agree there. I just
All
noticed
right.
I
Yeah.
forgot to make one adjustment because we're going to go to running backs next. But let me
Sure.
make
Yeah.
this adjustment real quick.
Take your time, homie. Take your time.
Okay. So the list for running backs, the top 100 list for running backs coming into this year, I think is fucking crazy. And I'll hit those points, but just the rundown. It was Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Christian McCaffrey, Tony Pollard, Aaron Jones, Dalvin Cook, and Jamal Williams.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I love Jamal Williams making the list, but it was a very specialized role with
Exactly.
a ton of fucking touchdown opportunities that I think plenty of backs would have been able to repeat.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. So when you take a look at the list, so first of all, Josh Jacobs, yeah, he was the rushing leader last year. There's no doubt about that. He had a fucking awesome year.
Yeah,
They ran his ass into the ground.
yeah.
Josh Jacobs, though, is not the running back that puts fear into a defense.
No, no. Before last season, he was averaging 80-ish yards a game, and it just skyrocketed to 120 a game last year because, like you said, they ran the wheels off of him.
Yeah. So, make one more correction, and so yeah, and so I give Josh Jacobs respect. He's a good running back. He's a top 5 running back in the league.
Hmm.
There's 3 running backs in the league, 3 running backs in the league that you pay no matter fucking what because they do it year in and year out. Number 1, Derrick Henry. Number 2, Austin Eckler. Number 3, Christian McCaffrey, and that's my order.
Oh,
Derrick
what about
Henry.
Chubb, dude? Don't forget about Chubb. He does it every year. You got to have a fourth, man. Chubb's had over 100 yards a game every year except his rookie year, dude.
This is true. This is true, and I do have Chubb next. I
All
just
right, all
don't.
right, all right. You
I
know
don't
I'm a
have.
huge Chubb fan. I'm
Yeah,
just,
I know you are.
I got to
I
throw
know
my
you're.
boy in there.
I know you're a huge Chubb fan. And I like Chubb, but what it boils down to, it's not a knock on Chubb, but Chubb is that player that you can find a replacement for him, and I have concerns with what he can do because that's where Kareem Hunt was also, and they had that 2-man punch,
Yeah, they
and
had a good tandem, yeah.
they have that tandem, and I'm concerned if Chubb's talent or Chubb's rushing yards is going to fade without that tandem there.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more about them changing the offense, but I hear what you're saying. There's some
Yeah.
concerns, yeah.
So Derrick Henry puts fear
Oh,
into
yeah. Who wants to
defenses.
tackle him?
Nobody
He's the size of a linebacker.
exactly, and he can run 300. I fucking I knocked him a couple years ago in my fantasy rankings because I was like, well, they ran him 742 times last year. What does he have
Yeah.
left in the tank? And he came out and he ran the ball down everyone's throat again. Derrick Henry by far is the number 1 running back in the league.
I'm glad you say that, man. I like him, and I feel like he doesn't get enough love, dude. I mean, he's, it seems like every year, just way
Mm-hmm.
farther down the list than he should be. And in this one, he's number 3 for running backs, and so that's, I think, respectful. But yeah, okay.
Then the next 2, Eckler and McCaffrey. I could argue either way on these. I have McCaffrey, Eckler, or
Yeah,
Eckler,
I think
McCaffrey.
it's, me, a part of it is I like having reliability and availability, which
Uh-huh.
Eckler is more
Exactly.
available.
And that's why I put Eckler at 2 and McCaffrey at 3. But with Eckler and McCaffrey, when they're on the field, it's not their threat solely isn't in the running game.
Yep.
Both these players can catch the ball out of the backfield, and and then get yards after catch. And they're consistent at catching the ball. They have great hands, especially for running backs. They have great hands. So I put them at 2-3. Then I put Chubb. And like I said, the only reason, like, I can't put Chubb higher than McCaffrey, Eckler, or
Sure.
Henry.
Yeah.
I simply can't do that.
That's fine. That's fine.
I like Chubb. I have
Yeah.
and also I have concerns going into this year with that. You're right. The offense change with Deshaun Watson. There is Deshaun Watson gonna take up that
Yeah.
threat that Kareem Hunt was. Not having Kareem Hunt, there's all sorts of concerns.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Then I put Josh Jacobs. The reason why I leave Josh Jacobs in the top five is simply because of the fact that you got to respect that he was the rushing leader last year.
Yeah.
You got to respect that. I don't know if he's going to have it 2 years in a row. We will see.
Yeah, I think them having him on a 1-year deal helps put him in that spot, but
Yes,
it's hard to repeat being the rushing leader.
exactly. Then I have two players that weren't even on the fucking list.
Okay.
I have Jonathan Taylor and Joe Mixon.
Gotcha.
Say what you will about Jonathan Taylor getting hurt last year.
Mhm.
Before that, Jonathan Taylor should have been a first round pick. He wasn't. He should have gone over Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He didn't. Heck, Jonathan
Over
Taylor,
who? Over who?
Jonathan Taylor should have been drafted by Cincinnati instead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Jonathan Taylor is a phenomenal running back. I think he has a lot left in the tank, and despite the fact that he got hurt last year, I think a part of the reason why he got hurt last year was because they had were you playing quarterback for the Colts last year? I can't rember because whoever it
Oh my
was
God.
probably wasn't
Yeah.
fucking better. And
Sadly,
they
Matt
could
Ryan, but yes.
they could just tee off on the running back.
Yeah, and the
year,
offensive line was shaky, which nobody
Mhm.
expected. It was a top 5 offensive line for a number of years, and then last year, man, they were just full of dysfunction.
Uh-huh. And Joe Mixon, I just like Joe. I really, really like Joe Mixon. But when you put the players that were in this list that were on the list ahead of Joe Mixon, like you said, Jamal Williams last year was a very specialized situation. Yeah, he did a lot, and yeah, he had
Yeah,
like
the touchdown
700
leader.
722 touchdowns last year. I'm really being hyperbolic with this.
Yeah, 17,
Yeah, he's in the
1,100 yards. I
he's
mean,
in the
it was a very good year for a running back, but it was not a game changer kind of year. It was a specialist
as a
that,
specialist,
yeah,
and he was a change of pace. He
yeah,
wasn't the number one running back, and
that's an important point to make. Yeah,
he's not the number one running back in New Orleans. If you're not the number one running back,
yeah, it's hard
it's
to have you on
holy
the list
shit.
if you're not the top dog.
And it's hard to have you on the list over the guy that is the top dog in your offense,
Yeah,
who's not even on the list, and I didn't put on my list, and it's a completely gaff by me because I probably would have
okay.
somewhere is with what the fuck's his name?
Are
I
you
just
talking
had
about
it.
Kamara?
Yeah, Alvin Kamara.
Okay.
Alvin Kamara is similar to like a McCaffrey Eckler type running back. He's more available. I'm surprised. I'm surprised he's not on the list. I'm
Yeah.
surprised he wasn't on my radar.
I think, part of it is there was is he getting suspended? Is he not? And last year was kind of a down year for him. He only scored 4 times, averaged 92 yards a game, but still, he's, when he's on the field, excuse me, he will definitely be the starter over Jamal Williams.
Yeah, and so I'm actually as I'm thinking about it, I think I'm fine with not putting Alvin Kamara on the list. I can make an argument for Alvin Kamara over Dalvin Cook and Jamal Williams, who I took off my list from
Sure.
the other list. The reason I took Dalvin Cook off the list, and it's not a knock on Dalvin Cook, he's consistently unavailable.
Yeah.
The running backs that I have on the list, with like the McCaffrey is not consistently unavailable, but he's occasionally unavailable. Jonathan Taylor, he missed half a season last year, but other than that, he's available. Everyone else, I still have Saquon on the list, but that's more of a product of he he has the talent, but his injuries, he had a freak injury a couple years ago. Outside of that, he's pretty much been healthy in his career.
Okay.
So, but after Mixon, I have Tony Pollard. I think that's about the right spot for him. I did move him down. I'm a big Tony Pollard fan. I told you last year he was the best running back on that team over Zeke.
Hmm.
I kept telling you that. I kept driving that home. The question with Tony Pollard is if now that he's the number one, he can still consistently prove it.
Yeah. Yeah, because he had less than 200 touches on the ground last year.
Yeah, but he
It's
he did miss part of the year last year too.
okay.
I want to say he played in 10 games last year.
Um, I'm showing him at 16 last year, but he might have played a handful of them banged up.
And was it the year before that he? Because I thought he ended the season at
You
his
keep
on
going. I'll
the.
be right back. I got to mute. I got to blow my nose real quick.
All right, it's fine. Because I thought for some reason I was thinking he finished the season on the IR last year. But yeah, he had 100. So last year he had 193 touches for 11 for 1,000 yards, which I mean that's solid. I want to double check the games played last year because for some reason maybe it was okay. So he played 16, so he must have got hurt and hurt like in the 16th game or something. Like I swear I remember him getting hurt. So I'm going to look this up as I talk, which this is great. Yeah, okay. So he had an injury last year in blah blah blah. So in 2022 he had 1,400 yards and 12 touchdowns. Last year he had 1,000 yards. He fractured his foot. Oh, it was in the playoff game that he got hurt. Okay, so that's fine. It was the playoff game he got hurt.
Okay.
Then after Tony Pollard's where I put Saquon. So with Saquon, like I could make the argument that Saquon doesn't belong on the list and Dalvin Cook does, or vice versa. I can make the argument either way with these guys,
Yeah.
but I think that Saquon is a good enough running back, and he's important enough to the team. Where Dalvin Cook isn't as important to the team because Dalvin Cook is just a stopgap, and Dalvin Cook is probably going to ultimately be the number two running back behind Breece Hall once Breece Hall's back.
Yep.
And then I put Aaron Jones, and the reason I put Aaron Jones here is because Aaron Jones he has talent, but he's going to be a very, very important piece to the Green Bay offense this year.
Hmm.
With Jordan Love, who can't throw the forward pass, they're going to have to run the ball.
Yeah, and he does split carries with A.J. Dillon, but yeah, I think Aaron Jones could be a workhorse in a lot of offenses if
Right.
teams wanted to use him that way.
But I think the split carries with AJ Dillon this year is you're going to see a lot of Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon on the field at the same time, and they're going to be throwing to Aaron Jones out of the backfield,
I could see that. Yeah.
like do like a swing pass or almost like a screen in the flat, like almost like a wide receiver screen to Aaron
Yeah, I mean,
Jones.
the dude had 59 receptions last year. So, yeah, I could see more of that for sure.
I'm going to finish out the offense and then I'll go defense.
Okay. What do we got next? Tight end then?
Okay, so tight end, I can't really make an argument anyway on the list. It was Travis Kelce at 5, Kittle at 19, Mark Andrews at 80. While I think some of these rookie quarterbacks could be in the top 100 running back, some of these rookie tight ends could be in the top 100 next year. I can't put them in the top 100 this year because of the fact simply we haven't seen him play.
Yeah.
At tight end, like outside of those three on lineups, like the next two highest rated tight ends are Dallas Goedert and T.J. Hawkinson.
Yeah,
And
and the touchdowns weren't there
ex-
for those guys,
exactly,
or the yards compared to the top three. So
exactly. And I can't argue. I'm arguing the list, trying to keep the same amount at each position in the list because of
sure,
the fact that
yeah,
I can't really fully argue why a center shouldn't be on the list versus a tight end
yeah,
because
it's because it's not apples to apples. I got you.
exactly. At center, like I said, Jason Kelsey, he should be on the list. He's way, way, way too high on the list. Then at guard, that guard is where I did make a change to my list. So the list had Zach Martin and Chris Lindstrom and as the only two guards on the list.
Yep.
And where the fuck is that? I went the wrong way. Hold on. Where is guard? Okay. So with these two guards, having Lindstrom on the list over Quentin Nelson and Joe Bitonio is a
Yeah.
fucking disgrace.
Yeah, it made me wonder what happened. Was it just because the Indy offense was so bad last year that Quentin Nelson got dropped? Because, I mean, going into last year, you could have argued he was the top offensive lineman in the league, maybe next to
Yeah.
Trent Williams, man.
Mm-hmm.
In different positions, obviously, but that good at guard.
Mm-hmm. And even having, like, I think it's a disgrace having Lindstrom on the list over Joe Thuney. According to lineups, Lindstrom's slightly higher ranked than Thuney.
Okay.
So I took out Lindstrom and I put Quentin Nelson in because I think last year was just an off year for Nelson.
Sure.
I think he's that good that he's going to be back to form this year, and he's going to be one of the centerpieces on that offensive line to help Anthony Richardson get his Offensive Rookie of the Year award. I mean, wait, that's next week. Anyways, at tackle, let me see. What did I do at tackle? I didn't change the list at tackle. And the reason I didn't change the list at tackle is because I couldn't
I like the list at tackle. I'm
yeah,
with you.
like the only argument I can make for anybody to be on the list at tackle is David Bakhtiari, but I can't really argue him
Yeah, but health was an issue, and
exactly because of health. But if you look at the lineups rankings of Bakhtiari is a 93.
yeah,
The lowest person on the list, or the lowest ranked person on the list from lineups, is ranked at a 92.
yeah. And
I can't.
Tunsil
I
probably
Tunsil,
played every game.
yeah, but he played
Yeah,
every game, so I can't argue Bakhtiari over Tunsil. So yeah, having Trent Williams. Trent Williams is obviously the best offensive tackle in the league.
yeah,
Lane Johnson is a very, very close second tackle in the league. I 100% agree to that order. Teron Armstead, yeah, he's the number 3 tackle in the league. Right here at 4 and 5 is where you can make the argument: should Bakhtiari be there? Shouldn't he be there? I don't think you can really make an argument for anybody else to be there instead of either of these guys, Tunsil or Wirfs. And like, yeah, Tunsil plays every game. Tristan Wirfs is a good offensive tackle, but I think he needs
yeah. I think he plays on the right side though, so
right.
it's a little different.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's what I was trying to think. But you're right. He does play on the right side from what I remember. If memory serves correct.
yeah, because they
So
had Donovan Smith for a while at left tackle, and yeah.
let me. I want to verify that.
No, I know Wirfs is a right tackle.
Okay, you do. So
Yeah.
fine. I'll believe
They
you.
were talking about moving him to left tackle because of all the injuries last year, and I'm pretty sure, decided to keep him at right tackle because that's his natural position.
They're moving him to left tackle this year.
Okay. So it happened.
Yeah,
He
they're
couldn't get
moving.
away from it because the offensive line has been so bad. But
Yeah, because
uh,
they're gonna be
yeah,
playing Luka Decky at right tackle, which makes sense.
which is where he played in college.
Yeah,
So good.
that
That's good for
sense. That
Gadecki.
makes sense to me. We'll see. So that there is the argument for why Tristan Wirfs shouldn't be on the list is because he's going into a position that he hasn't played in the league yet,
Yeah.
and Bakhtiari, but but Bakhtiari is still coming back from that injury. And if I remember correctly, there's rumors about him asking for a trade out of Green Bay.
Okay.
So there's some concerns there. So I have no real full argument to put Bakhtiari over Wirfs.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm good with all that.
All
Where are
right.
we going next, bud?
We'll just go in alphabetical order. We'll go to corner.
Okay. Sure. Ooh, getting saucy.
Yeah. All right. So the list had 9 corners on it. You had Sauce Gardner, Jair Alexander, Jalen Ramsey, Patrick Surtain, Trayvon Diggs, Slay, Tyreek Woolen, Marshawn Lattimore, Marlon Humphrey.
Yeah, which I see, by the way, he's going by Reek now. Reek Woolen instead of Tyreek or Tariq. He's going just
What?
Reek. They like changing their names, James.
What?
It was like what was it? Darius Leonard went by Shaq Leonard last year. We obviously know Ocho Cinco, Robbie Chosen Anderson. Uh, I it's and that's fine. Hey, the artist formerly known as Prince. We're all allowed to change our names and do our things. Tariq's going to Reek. That's not a huge stretch anyhow, so that's fine. I always like to point out the name changes because, like, with Robbie Anderson, that one totally stumped me last year. I'm like, who the hell's Chosen Anderson?
Mhm. All right. I did some tweaking here at cornerback. Sauce Gardner, in my opinion, by far, based on last year, the best cornerback in the league.
Yeah.
Jair Alexander, he's right there at second. While I agree, playing his best, Jalen Ramsey should be the number 3 corner in the league. He hasn't played his best for a season and a half now.
That's a good point.
He's obviously going downhill, so he does not belong at number 3. When I
And
looked at,
and can I just stop you just for a second on that? And so because in our assessment, we looked at the top 100 and then we looked at the lineups ratings. And I think it's important for anybody that's looking at lineups to just have an understanding that lineups is typically a little bit slow to raise the rating on rookies and second year players. And then it's almost like the flip towards the end of a player's career when they start to go in the decline phase. They're a little bit slow to drop their rating. And so, like, if you're paying close attention to the game, you can see a guy that's leading the lineups rating. And then you can also see a guy that's sort of at the end of his career that's definitely lagging the lineups rating. And so it's just good to point that out in case, we're doing any cross comparison here.
true, thank you. So, but like with Ramsey, he's definitely on the decline.
Yeah, now he's got the injury for this year. That's about.
I just fuck something up. Give me 1 second.
Take your time, buddy. Take your time. Yeah. Yeah, the one that I'll tell you that I was bummed about, and really just kind of blown away about is that AJ Terrell from Atlanta, man. I don't know how he didn't make the list. I mean, that guy, he's just been playing really, really good cornerback work for the Falcons. And maybe part of it is because that team is, sort of like trying to get out from under subpar, and so he got overlooked. But I would have put him ahead of Marlon Humphrey at a minimum. And I like Marlon Humphrey a lot. I just think AJ Terrell had a better season last year. And at this stage of the career, it's like Terrell's still going up. Humphrey, we know what we got and whatever. And I don't know, just my opinion there, man.
Which, I mean, that makes complete sense. I don't even have Humphrey on my list.
Okay.
So 1, 2, I was right there. Sauce Gardner, Jaheir Alexander. And number 3, they had Jalen Ramsey. I have Surtain. I dropped Jalen Ramsey down a little bit. I still kept Jalen Ramsey on my list. I just dropped him down a little bit.
Okay.
But it kind of holds after that. I had Surtain, Trayvon Diggs, Darius Slay, which is the order they had him in. Then they had Tariq Woolen, Marshawn Lattimore, Marlon Humphrey. This is where I had Tariq Woolen, and this is where my list is completely different. They didn't have Tre'Davious White.
Yep.
They didn't have AJ Terrell on the list. The only reason why. Wait, let me verify that with something real quick.
Sure.
Now that I'm thinking about it, because I'm pretty sure. Because what I'm forgetting is which one. Okay, they kept Tre'Davious White. That actually changes that a little bit for me. I got those confused. I got Tre'Davious White and what's his face? You know who I'm talking about.
Were you talking about AJ Terrell again for a second there?
No. The linebacker from Buffalo.
Matt Milano?
No. The one that they didn't resign.
Terrell Edmonds?
Terrell Edmonds. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I got those two confused. I had those two reversed in my head. So that's going to change my list a little bit. So it goes Surtain, Diggs, Tre'Davious White, because I really think Tre'Davious White is a phenomenal cornerback. On top of the fact that I think he's a phenomenal quarterback. Like, if you look at...
Was he out for some of last year? Man, I'm trying to remember.
He was out for some of last year. But you look at this secondary for Buffalo, this is fucking scary. Tre'Davious White, Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde, Dane Jackson.
Yeah,
okay,
they're
Dane
always
Jackson,
deep in the
maybe
secondary.
not good. But fucking Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, and Micah Hyde, that's fucking scary as fuck.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about Jalen Ramsey, so I just got my stat on him. So, the one defense for him last year is that he did still have 18 passes defensed, which was second in the league. And so he still got it, but yeah, it seems like we're out of prime Jalen Ramsey territory.
Exactly. He seems to be on the decline. He's not the shutdown corner that he used to be.
Yeah.
So after Trevon Diggs, I have Tre'Davious White, then Darius Slay, then Reek Woolen, then AJ Terrell. And that's
okay.
That's where I have it. I couldn't really put AJ Terrell much higher.
Yeah, that's fine.
Then, you can make the argument that he should be ahead of Woolen. The reason why Slay's kind of down here for me is because of the simple fact that secondary is completely different this year.
Yeah.
And the fact that he shit on the Lions on his way out the door. Completely shit on the Lions on his way out the door.
Yeah,
I know
shit, man. So with Tariq Woolen, or Reek Woolen, as he goes by now, he was tied for first in the league last year with 6 interceptions. He also was tied for fourth in passes defensed with 16 as a freaking rookie, man. That's huge, dude. That's
Mm-hmm.
huge.
Yeah, and Woolen's going to climb up this board if he continues on the trajectory he is. But then at the last spot at cornerback is where I have Jalen Ramsey. I didn't completely take him off my list
Yeah.
because I think if he can get back to what he was, or even a fraction of what he was, he's a scary fucking cornerback.
Yeah,
But he
and
has
we know last year was, whatever you want to say about the Rams, you know, they
yeah.
they went all in on the Super Bowl and then everything blew up on them. And so you could say that a lot of guys kind of checked out as the season went on.
Yeah, and I mean, I can see the argument for Marshawn Lattimore and Marlon Humphrey to be on the list. I just don't think they're better than anybody I put on the list. And
Sure.
you can also make the argument for Stephon Gilmore to be on the list, but with the same respect, last year he was not Stephon Gilmore.
No,
It's like he
he's a
thrived.
very highly rated player, but it was an off year for him.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's because of a decline or if that's just because
I
of the
mean,
change.
Dallas is betting that it was because Indy's defense was just dysfunctional,
It-
and I think they're
yeah.
right.
I think they might be right too, but I'm hesitant to put him on the list over
Yeah.
the argument would be over Jalen Ramsey, and I think if Jalen Ramsey turns it around this year with his new
Yeah, I
where'd
wouldn't
he
put
go?
Gilmore ahead of Ramsey. No way. I mean, you
Yeah,
just look at Gilmore's flip teams now. He's on his fourth team, I think. I mean, that's
yeah,
something's going on with him.
exactly. So I'm not gonna I'm not gonna argue much for Gilmore being on the list. I'm just saying I was just I was really defending him being off the list because somebody's going to
Sure.
argue that he should
Yeah.
be on the list.
Yeah, I got you.
So at defensive end, actually, this was one of the only lists because of how they defined the players. This was one of the only lists that I'm not seeing a change I made to it.
Okay.
I think this one was well done.
Gotcha.
Like you could maybe argue based on like Chris, like, okay, so it was Nick Bosa, Chris Jones, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, Cam Jordan, Jonathan Allen, Brian Burns, Trey Henderson, Zadarius Smith, Aiden Hutchinson, and DeMarcus Lawrence. That was the list. The only argument that can be made is Chris Jones and his holdout, and Zadarius Smith had a down year last year, and Aiden Hutchinson was a rookie, and those are
Yeah.
the two arguments on here. But I like how the
I
list
just,
came out.
I don't
I
know,
just
man. I
liked it.
just thought Myles Garrett should have been higher. And I know I
See,
mentioned that last week or whenever we talked about it, but I just think Myles Garrett's a force, and having him fourth, I would have, maybe you keep him in that range with Chris Jones. You could put him at three behind Chris Jones, but I would have thought for sure you put him above Max Crosby. The dude had 16 sacks. Crosby had 12 and a half. And I know it's more than just sacks, but I
right.
just think Myles Garrett gets it done every year, man.
And I see that argument too, and that was an argument that was the next argument I could make, but I was comfortable with Crosby being
Sure.
over Myles Garrett because of the fact that
Crosby did have 58 tackles, so I mean, that's, and Garrett only had 37. So, I mean, I guess it's like the pendulum swings the other way in that category.
yeah. So I mean, you can make arguments here and there, but it's really really just splitting hairs
Yeah.
on it. And you can make the argument the other way. And one of my things was can you make is the argument for the way the list is as strong as changing the list? And
I got you.
if they were equally strong, I was going to defer because the
Yeah. Do
top
you have
100
enough
was voted
evidence
on
to
by the players.
overturn the play, James?
Yeah, the NFL players voted on this, and I think it's based on people playing the game that know the game more than me, and if it's a coin flip for me, I'm going to defer to them.
I mean, but do they? Some of them are betting on football in the
This
locker
is
room.
true. This
Do
is
they
true.
know more about it? I don't know. I'm just messing around. All right, keep going, bud.
All right. So at defensive tackle, for the most part, I was good with this list.
Okay. What's your beef?
All right. So the original list: Aaron Donald, Dexter Lawrence, Quinnen Williams, Cam Hayward, Jeffrey Simmons, Grady Jarrett, DeForest Buckner, Christian Wilkins.
Mm-hmm.
So I was good with everything on the list up until Christian Wilkins.
What's your beef with him, man?
I think Vita Vea is a better player than Christian Wilkins. And it's just my personal opinion. Watching the game, I like Vita Vea better.
So yeah, no, I mean, I would say, yeah, historically, I think, and they're a little different. I think Vea's more like a nose tackle guy. Wilkins is more like kind of like a traditional defensive tackle, can be in
Yeah.
more on more plays. The one thing that stuck out last year is that Christian Wilkins led the league for defensive linemen in tackles with 59. And so I just kind of personally felt like he was a little bit underrated when I saw him on the list here. But I do agree with you that Vita Vea should have, I thought, made the cut somewhere. I thought there were a few guys that, or not a few guys, I think he was the one guy that missed the cut at defensive tackle that should have been squeezed in somehow.
Okay. You've made the argument made the argument. I'll take DeForest Buckner off.
All right, take off Buckner. I like Buckner too, though, David.
I like Buckner, but last year I was just thinking about it. Last year Buckner, it felt like he faded away.
It was that whole defense, dude.
It was that whole defense, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
But even though it was that whole defense, you have to take into account his.
Yeah, if you're going to be the leader of that defense. Yeah.
If you're the leader of the defense, you have to take accountability to it. So
Sure.
I'll put Christian Wilkins, then Vita Vea.
All right. It's your list, though. I want to make sure you're happy with your list. I'm just giving you my 2 cents, James.
No, and I hear you. I struggled with taking Wilkins off, and then I looked at Buckner, and I kind of was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, let's take Buckner off.
All right. I'm good with that.
All right. So inside linebacker, I was 100% on board with the list.
Okay.
I thought they got the right order for the inside linebacker. Fred Warner, Roquan Smith, C.J. Mosley, Bobby Wagner, Eric Kendricks. The argument could be made that Bobby Wagner shouldn't be on this list because he had quote unquote a down year last year.
I don't know about that, but yeah, by his standards.
By his standards. But then again, that's why Bobby Wagner's not number 3.
Okay.
I think that's why C.J. Mosley took over the number 3 spot. At inside linebacker, I don't know if there's somebody that I can put over Eric Kendricks. I don't have my full notes. Like I told you, I had my spreadsheet on my other computer and I'm out of town, didn't bring my other computer with me. So I don't remember what I did with Eric Kendricks.
It's hard to find a guy stat wise that you could say beat him out last year. Yeah.
In my quick looking at it, it was hard to find a guy that I could put over him.
Yeah.
So I'm good with leaving him in. And like I said, I left the number at each position. I just took issue with the rankings at the position. All right.
Yeah, I'm
Outside
good with
linebacker.
that. I'm good with all that.
Outside linebacker, I had a couple issues with this list.
Okay. Yeah, an outside linebacker, I think, yeah, I mean, it's like you've got some guys that are sort of like traditional, like 4-3 outside linebackers,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have some guys that are more like 3-4, sort of like edge kind of pass rushing linebackers. And so this is the one position that's I think a blend, which makes it a little bit funky to try to evaluate.
So at so I'm just going to run down the list. And I'm going to talk about where I had the issues.
Sure.
So it's Micah Parson, T.J. Watt, Matt Judon, Khalil Mack, Demario Davis, Hassan Reddick, Matt Milano, Joey Bosa, Dre Greenlaw. Okay, I really struggled to keep Micah Parsons at the top
Okay.
over T.J. Watt, and the reason I say that, not last year, the year before. Remember when T.J. Watt got injured?
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, was that last year or the year before? Okay.
I think it was the year. I'm pretty sure it was the year before last year. But anyways, when T.J. Watt got injured, that defense disappeared,
Yep.
and I think T.J. Watt is better than Micah Parsons, but I think, if I remember correctly, Buffalo, or I'm sorry, Pittsburgh plays a 3-4 where Dallas plays a 4-3. If I remember correctly. No,
Say that one more time.
Pittsburgh plays a 3-4, Dallas
Yes,
plays a 4-3.
correct.
Yes, thank you. I was like, I was starting to second guess myself. So, what Micah Parsons does in a 4-3 defense versus what TJ Watt does in a 3-4 defense, it's completely different. Yeah, TJ Watt
Yeah.
is the heart and soul of that Pittsburgh defense, but it's more impressive because of the fact that with true defensive ends not playing defensive end, Michael Parsons has the stats that he does. And so that was the argument for leaving Micah Parsons over TJ Watt.
Okay.
Then I have Matt Judon. I'm fine with Judon here. Judon's not better than the other two.
He did have a monster year,
He
15 and a
had
half sacks, man.
exactly. This is where I had the big issue. Khalil Mack.
Yeah, me too. And I hate saying it because, you know, I've been a big fan since he came out of the MAC, but
Yeah,
it seemed like things faded away for him a little bit last year.
exactly. Khalil Mack completely dropped off my list.
I would have flipped him with Hassan Reddick, in my opinion. Reddick had freaking 16 sacks last year, man.
Khalil Mack's not even on my list.
Okay.
Um, I have Joey Bosa here.
Gotcha. And so, yeah, so Bosa, oh, I was trying to find it with him. I thought he missed some time last year, too. I know, like, everybody and their mom was hurt on the Chargers last year.
Did he, and did I forget about it? Either way, I think Joey Bosa is on his way to being the best outside linebacker in the league, just like his brother's on his way to being the best
Defensive end.
defensive end in the league. So last year he had a groin injury in week 3. No, wait. He played with a groin injury last year.
Okay.
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, because, like, Bosa doesn't show up on any of my stat sheets, man. It seems like he missed some time.
Yeah, and I'm looking for it, but I just
But when he's healthy, yeah, he's amazing.
he's okay. So he played in. Oh, let me get it. Let me open it instead of.
Yeah.
So last year he played in 5 games.
Yeah, that's low. That's why he's not hitting any stat category.
Yeah, okay. And that makes sense. That makes sense why he was so low on the list.
Yeah, you're looking more at the full body of work.
Exactly. The year before, in 2021, he played in 16 games. He had 51 tackles, 7 forced fumbles, 10 and a half sacks. Which is solid.
Oh yeah.
When he plays a full, okay, so he played in 12 games in 2016, he had 10 and a half sacks. He played in 16 games in 2017, he had 12 and a half. He played in 7, he had 5 and a half. So he's played in total of 84 games and he has 60 and a half sacks.
Yeah, that's pretty darn good. Yeah.
He's also played in a total of 84 games and has a total of 301 tackles and 14 forced fumbles. I think I think if he wasn't injured last year, he would have been on pace for a good year. A good year, not a great year. But I think he was on pace, and he's a better outside linebacker. I, I, I don't like putting him over Hassan Reddick because Hassan Reddick is never injured. But I just think I just like Bosa. I'm leaving him there.
Yeah,
I
that's
left
fine.
I
Hey, like
I
I
left
said earlier, it's your list, man.
I left Demario Davis and Hassan Reddick at, at right here in that order. Um, I think Demario Davis had a slightly better statistical year than Hassan Reddick, but I think Hassan Reddick has more talent. But because of the better statistical year, I left Demario Davis there.
Sure.
I left Matt Milano there, and then this is where I changed it, and I changed it again. Because I told you I dropped Khalil Mack off the list. I also dropped Dre Greenlaw off the list. And it's not a knock on Greenlaw. I just think Von Miller and Levante David are better than Greenlaw. That's just my opinion on them.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, for me, every year I kind of nitpick at Matt Milano on the list, and you
Hmm.
might remember that from last year. It just it almost seems to me like he's in the perfect situation where he's surrounded by so much talent, and it's almost like there's not one part of his game necessarily that he's excelling at. It's almost like if you remember Teddy Bruschi back in like the Patriots heyday, it was like Bruschi. There was like a couple seasons where it was just like, wow, he just was like in the right place at the right time, like
Hmm.
every time, and it just felt like a little bit like the game came to him, like it was a little bit of luck. I get a little bit of that vibe with Matt Milano, but I don't want to take too much away from him because I know he's a great linebacker in coverage. Um, I guess I'm just used to more of like the physically imposing, like just like solid tackling linebackers, and I don't get that from him. But it's okay. I think he still earned it. I just he's always on my watch list.
Yeah, and I hear that. I completely understand where you're going with that. I like him
Yeah, that's cool.
at safety. So at safety, they had Minka Fitzpatrick, Derwin James, Jordan Poyer, Justin Simmons, Buda Baker, Talano Hafunga,
Oh yeah.
and Harrison Smith. I did some editing here, just a little bit, not much,
Sure.
just a just a little bit. Derwin James, by far, currently a better safety than Minka Fitzpatrick.
I mean, man, He's a game changer when he's on the field, that's for sure.
In my opinion, Jordan Poyer, a better safety than Minka Fitzpatrick currently.
So now, did Poyer miss time last year? I think he started the year hurt, but he might have played. I can't remember. And I'm only asking that because it's almost like the Bosa thing. He's not hitting. He's on some of my stat lists, but further down than you might normally think.
Let me look at that.
And
I
it
didn't
can be
think
it
he
can be deceiving in
was.
these defensive back positions because it's not always about stats. If they're that good, people aren't throwing in their direction, and so there's not going to be as much stats to have. I'm just taking a peek here.
So last year he played in 12 games.
Okay, well that would make sense because he's nowhere to be found on the tackles list, but
He
he
had
is on
he
the
had 60
interceptions list.
he had 63 total tackles, one forced fumble,
Oh
four
man.
interceptions.
Oh, 63 total tackles. Okay, because
Yeah,
yeah, he's not on my
44 solo.
so. Okay, yeah, that's what I was looking at, the solo list. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
44 solo. So that's
But yeah,
that's fine.
Poyer, yeah, I love Poyer, man. He's badass.
Justin Simmons, in my opinion, currently better than Minka Fitzpatrick.
Really? Holy cow, man. What? Why you dogging Fitzpatrick all of a sudden?
It's not that I'm dogging Fitzpatrick. I
He did
just
kind of have a down year though, I suppose, because I'm looking at his stats too. He led defensive backs in interceptions. Fitzpatrick was 6, but
really.
he was low on tackles. I mean, I'm not even seeing him on here unless I'm skipping him. And he was kind of like, well, closer to the top than not. It tied for 24th with passes defensed, but wow, the lack of tackles, that seems strange for him.
And that could be why this could be where my thought was going into it
Sure.
because he had 56 total tackles and 6 interceptions in 15 games.
Yeah. Yeah, the tackle number seems low.
Yeah, it does. So so I also had Jesse Bates above
Oh
Minka
yeah, I like
Fitzpatrick.
Jesse Bates, yeah.
The only reason why I don't have Jesse Bates higher is because he's playing on a new team this year,
Okay.
and I don't know how he's going to fit into that defense.
Yeah, and it's good to point out with Talanoa Hufanga, that's this is another one of these sort of like blended position groups. And so
Mm.
Hufanga is one of these guys that plays multiple spots in defense. He plays kind of like that safety linebacker hybrid. And so you're going to see a guy like that have more tackle opportunities. Like it's going to be a different kind of stat sheet for him than it is going to be for a more traditional, like deep back safety. Just pointing that out for
True.
people.
Then after Jesse Bates is where I have Minka Fitzpatrick.
Okay.
Then I have Buda Baker.
Yeah,
Fine
Buddha
with
had a
that.
big year.
The person, there's a bunch of people that I felt got snubbed
I
on this
agree.
list.
Yeah, safety was a tough one. Yeah.
So I already added Jesse Bates back to the list. I thought Kevin Byard, Tyrann Mathieu, Micah Hyde, and Jamal Adams all had arguments to be on this list. Each and every one of them did. So what I defaulted to on that was it feels to me like Tyrann Mathieu's kind of tailing off, and Kevin
Yeah.
Byard's getting fucking old.
Yeah. And then Jamal Adams is hurt all the time.
Jamal Adams is hurt all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly. These are all the things I had. So ultimately, that came down to
Kevin
is Micah.
Byard's getting fucking old. Oh, yeah. Keep going, bud.
He is. He's fucking like in his like
We
20th
can't fight the
season.
clock. Not all of us are Tom Brady. We can play because we're a cyborg. I got you.
What? This is his like 700th season.
No, I mean, it's, for all the guys that didn't make the list, they have a case for it, but they also have a bigger case against it, is what you're getting at.
Yeah, this is his. He's going into his 8th year.
Yeah, and safeties, you know, sometimes safeties can play a little bit longer in the career than, say, a
Yeah,
cornerback,
I
but
know.
it's tough. It's a tough position because once you lose that speed, you'll lose some of that oil in your hips. That game's gone for you.
Yeah, and I want to fully make my argument on this.
Sure.
Did he fucking miss games last year?
Byard?
No. Damn.
What are you looking at?
That's why he's not on the list. Micah Hyde. I fucking love Micah Hyde.
Yeah, me too.
I, I, I,
He's like a sledgehammer at safety, man.
and I made fun of Byard for getting old. This is like Micah Hyde's like 15th season, so
Yeah,
like
he's the yeah.
he's the one that's getting old, but
But he plays with a lot of intensity.
plays with a lot of intensity. In his career, he's played in 144 games. He has 5 sacks, 4 forced fumble, 6 fumble recoveries, 22 interceptions, and I believe he plays strong safety.
That would make sense to me, yeah. And by the way, most of the guys on the list were tagged as
No,
free safeties.
he plays free safety. He
Okay.
plays free safety. Jordan Poyer plays strong safety. But anyways, I had to put Micah Hyde on this list. Yeah, I know he was injured last year, but
You gotta do what you gotta do, man.
I couldn't keep him off the list. I thought it was disrespectful to keep him off the list. The year before last, when he wasn't hurt, played all 17 games, had 53 tackles, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and 5 interceptions.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice.
And that was his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th season in the league. Last year was the only season he missed more than one game.
Okay.
And he got injured early. It was a freak injury. That defense, though, Buffalo's defense, yeah, they also lost Tre'Davious White later, but when they lost Micah Hyde, the pass defense was different. Then when they lost Tre'Davious White, the pass defense was really fucking different.
Yeah. And that's a deep group, but when you lose those two guys.
Yeah. And for how deep they are, to have a noticeable change with him not being in the lineup, tells me that he's still at the top of his game going into his 11th season.
Yeah.
So I put Micah Hyde as my last safety on the list. I could make the argument that he's better than Budda Baker or better than Minkah Fitzpatrick or better than any of these guys. Like, I could argue this order any way.
Okay.
Because all these guys are really good. All these guys are game changers. Also, though, the one thing with it is with Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, the argument could be made for them individually not to be on the list, but as a tandem to be on the list.
Oh, yeah. No, that's an interesting way of looking at it, yeah. Because you could say maybe they're like feeding off of each other in that secondary.
But it's my list. I'm putting them both on.
Well, there you go. There you go. That's all I want for you to, James. I just want you to own your list. This tonight was all about you, my friend. You know, my son, he watches some of our shows and he's like, Dad, you talk too much. So I'm like, okay, this is all about James tonight.
Any comments on my list?
Oh, no, I mean, I gave him as we went. You
Yeah,
know,
no.
I like the way you broke it down, man.
All right. Any final thoughts?
No, I'm good there, man. I'm good.
All
You
right.
want to go to
Then
question of the week?
we'll move on to question of the week.
All right, all right. So, yeah, so James, for question of the week, I wanted to keep it with the NFL Top 100 list. And so I want to ask you, looking just at this list, these 100 guys, I don't want you looking at guys that didn't make the list. I just want you looking at these guys. Who do you think makes the biggest jump up the board next year? And who do you think has the biggest decline down the board next year? And, you know, for me, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to go crazy about it. But I think the biggest jump is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Everything I'm seeing is lining up for him. And, you know, he may not necessarily join that elite tier of quarterbacks, but he could be on the fringe after this year. And with him hitting the list at 96, I think there's a lot of room for him to run up. The biggest drop off, I think you talked a little bit about him earlier, is going to be Josh Jacobs. And so when you look at him, he wasn't on the list up until this year, and putting him at 12, I think, is just way too lofty. And so, unless he can duplicate what he did last season, which I think is very, very, very difficult for a running back to do, especially a guy that was only averaging 80 yards a game in like the 2 or 3 seasons before. He may still be on the top 100 list next year, but I just think he's going to have the biggest fall out of these group of 100 guys.
So I'm going to hit the biggest drop off. The biggest drop off is going to be the biggest drop is going to be the hardest one to determine who actually dropped the most, because there's going to be a lot of guys that drop off the list.
Yeah, and so it's tough. Like Jamal Williams, you know, I mean, he'll fall off the list, but he's already at the bottom of the list, and so I couldn't like say, oh well, he's going to drop off from, you know, 90 to 200 or something. It's just so I tried to look more towards the top half, but yeah, you can look at it whatever way you want. It's your answer, man.
So I'm going to go with dropping is probably going to be I'm going to say Khalil Mack,
Okay.
because he seems to be fading into oblivion.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, yeah, just to be clear, he was at 38 this year. Okay. Where do you think he ends up next year? In like the 70s? You think he falls off the list?
I think if the trajectory he's on continues, I think he will be off the list. I think having him at 38 is kind of a legacy,
Gotcha.
historical look at him versus where he actually is now.
Okay. And so, who do you think's the biggest gainer on the list for next year? Patrick Mahomes. How does that work?
And it has to be somebody that's on the list.
Yep, I'm forcing you to stick with this top 100.
I'm going to say Devonta Smith.
Okay. No, I like that. So yeah, he's at 100.
I like your Trevor Lawrence, but I had to pick somebody that was different than you.
Sure. Yeah.
I 100% see the argument, and I was making that argument for Trevor Lawrence. Like, I was already making that by saying
Oh yeah, yeah.
he was way too fucking low
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with having some overlap, but
as
yeah,
as it was. Having him at 96 and where I put him ahead of players. They had him at 96. I had him ahead of players that were at 51,
yeah,
56, 77,
yeah, he
um,
could easily make a huge jump.
86, 82. I could have made the argument that he was better than Jared Goff, which was at 66, better than Kirk Cousins at 42. I put him close. I think he'll be closer like a Justin Herbert at at who's currently at 32. He'll
Sure.
be closer to there than 86. I'm not going to say that, or what was it, 96? I'm not going to say he's going to go all the way up to 32, but he'll be very close to top. I'll put him in the top 40 next year.
Sure.
I
Yeah, and that's
for
a massive jump, 50 spots.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm sorry. I was making my Trevor Lawrence argument. Um, for Devonta Smith, I think people discount Devonta Smith, even in the league. They discount Devonta Smith because he's opposite of AJ Brown,
Yeah.
and I don't think they realized how truly talented he is to where he's going to move up. Plus, he was a rookie last year, so I could see any one of the rookies last year that were on the list at wide receiver, especially that were on the list this year, but lower on the list. I could see any one of them moving up a lot. Like Garrett Wilson could move up a lot from 74, but I think it's a bigger jump for Devonta Smith because I already have him. I'll just put him. Say I have him at 60 because I have him better than Deebo Samuel at 61. I
Yeah, and that's
already
a 40 spot jump.
That's
That's
a 40
huge.
spot jump. I
Yeah.
think I think ultimately this year he'll be ahead of like probably closer to like a Jalen Waddle, which is at 44.
Yeah, and I mean, Jalen Waddle's the number two in Miami. Smith's the
Yeah.
number two in Philly. If you got them in that same range, I like that comparison right there. That's solid, man. Sweet. Okay. Well, yeah, that's our question of the week. Maybe we'll get some takers. Maybe we won't. I don't know. I hope to God we get more subscribers, but it's out of our control. So, any closing thoughts for tonight, James?
I don't think so. I think I hit everything I wanted to hit.
Yeah, no, you had a very thorough assessment of the top 100, I think. And next week we get down to brass tacks, and we're going to provide our week one power rankings and game picks.
Yes,
Football's back. We got to get our bet going, buddy.
we do.
And we could talk about it next week. So, yeah. All right. Well, hey, for anybody who's watching, we hope you like the show. If you did, hit that thumbs up or the like or whatever platform you're on. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, please. And yeah, that's all I got. So I'll catch you later, man.
All right, sounds good. Have a good one.
See ya.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.